In a world filled with conflict, in a universe comprised of differences, there's one thing that absolutely everything shares in common. We all exist. Including two guys named Jack and Michael, who like to chat about that very thing over a good cup of coffee. Let's pay them a visit, shall we?
Existence Brewing.
Shop and hear George Thorogood and the Destroyers, do you? Madam, I'm talking to you. No, you're good. Sorry, no, I'm fine. No, really, you're good. Okay. Just waiting for my friend.
Bad to the bone, dun 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 dun. Bad to the bone, dun 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 dun. That's my entry song today.
Can you do the? I was coming out of that song to back announce on the radio one day when I was jocking the FM, and I think I just started doing that with like every word that came out of my mouth, and some guy called corporate. I mean, I swear to God, no bullshit. Some guy not only called to complain, didn't call me to complain, didn't call the front desk to complain. He called our corporate offices to say that I was being insensitive about people who have stutters and seizure issues.
Oh my gosh. Clearly, he's never heard
George
the song.
Thorogood had a stutter and a seizure issue because of massive amounts of alcohol and drugs. So it fits in. It's timely. So
seriously, I didn't know that.
I don't know. That's true. He's a rock star. I mean, the only rock stars that didn't do drugs were either lying about it or named Geddy Lee.
Yeah, so, right.
Like, it's just. We got to throw Alex Lifeson and Neil Peart in there. Those guys didn't. They claim not to do drugs.
Well, I got a funny story for you. There was a lady who I once worked for who did not like a song that we were playing on the radio. And I remember her talking to me. She goes, I was up late at night one night and I was listening to our radio station and I don't want to hear that song anymore about old ladies being killed. And I said, really?
Old ladies being killed?
I said,
what song is this?
We're playing a song that says old ladies are being killed? She goes, yeah. It said something about the werewolves of London. And I was like, oh, Warren Zevon.
Goddamn fucking Warren Zevon. He just, every time.
Realized that it was that graphic. But if you listen to the lyrics, yeah. I guess he is saying that, isn't he? But it's
kind of a metaphor, though.
It's kind of a context, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, my list is easy. I mean, and we don't have to go off the rails on this, but being a disc jockey. Now, I've not always, of course, been a music jock, but I've certainly done enough of it in my life. And the gig I know I had at the station you're referencing, where we worked together for a number of years, was a hybrid gig. It was sort of a news talk / disc jockey because we played music, but we also did these interview segments and there was news. And so it was kind of like that. But I know in my 26-year career of jockeying, I have a top 3 songs that I absolutely detested having to play on a regular basis without saying something about them. So we can do it countdown style in a nod to Casey Kasem. So we'll do it right now. I don't know the exact name of the song, but number 3, Beyonce, If You Want It, You Got to Put a Ring on It. Do we need to get off into, like I said, we don't have to get off into the weeds, but I can't stand that song. We're talking about her complaining that the guy that she's already screwed, by the way, and we know it. I mean, they've probably been living together for 4 fucking years, and you won't put a ring on it. So fuck you. He's already gotten what he wants. Now he just wants to live off of you. Okay. And now you're demanding a status symbol in exchange. It sends a terrible message. It has nothing to do with togetherness or nothing to do with partnership or nothing to do with sharing, equally. And oh, by the way, and I know I don't have a leg to stand on in this argument as far as a lot of people are concerned, but I'm going to say it anyway. Do you know where that big gigantic diamond that you want comes from? It comes from Africa, and it's mined by 9-year-old kids who are working for De Beers 19 or 20 hours a day. So fuck your ring. I hate that song. And it's number 3. Number 2 on our countdown is it Kelly Clarkson? Is it who sings Before He Cheats?
Oh, I believe you're talking about Carrie Underwood.
Oh, right. Carrie Underwood and Before He Cheats. This is an incredible way to deal with our rejection and ridicule. I've been cheated on, so I'm going to vandalize his personal property. This is teaching the whole world a valuable lesson about how to go to court or jail for a few days. Like, come on.
You don't screw with Carrie.
Come on, man. What the fuck is that? We've all been pissed off at somebody and wanted to take it out on them, but you don't write a song about busting up the dude's truck because he's a fucking cheater. Look, you're feeling stupid because you picked a cheater, okay? And nobody deserves to be cheated on. Infidelity is a thing, but don't you think there's a little bit of self-blame in there that's causing the apoplectic reaction that we're getting all of a sudden? I mean, hate that fucking song. So never liked playing that one, and I had to play both of those on the station that I worked with you at.
Well, her name is Carrie Underwood.
And you picked some of that music, too, along with Stanley.
I don't think I ever did. I was never the music director during your tenure. In fact, when I was the music director, we played far more obscure music. So
I would hope so. All right. And anyway, we got to move on. So to finish out our countdown, the number 1 song
the Goodnight Dedication song
hated to play in the history of his disc jockeying career, without question, absolutely as repugnant and despicable as the other 2 songs were, this hands down puts it away to no shame whatsoever. Toby Keith, How Do You Like Me Now? She doesn't. And she never has. And she never fucking will. Get over it. Only a stupid pig like you are would write a song about a girl from high school who didn't like him. And now it's How Do You Like Me Now? She doesn't, dude. She doesn't. She doesn't care that you grew up to be a country singer and make all this money for doing absolutely nothing in front of all these twisted tea drinking people with hats on that have been in the sun for. She doesn't like you. Get over it. It's stalky. It's weird. It's gross. It's creepy.
Or does she? And now she wants you to put a ring on it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's almost what he's saying, isn't it? He's almost saying like, yeah, give me a call after you hear the song. And it's just like, no. And I'm sorry, I do it that way because you've heard the song, How Do You Like Me Now? And it's just like, Jesus, dude, are you ever going to get the message? Okay, you could be the king of Prussia. Okay, you could have marble temples built in your honor. Like, she doesn't ever want to get down on what you have. Ever. Just get it through your head. Okay, there. So it was about time that list came out.
Yeah, I think we were all waiting on that one.
Yeah, I think so too. So that I always feel good after a cathartic moment like that. So,
my favorite song from my radio disc jockey career was when I was at a top 40 radio station and I had to back announce the song Bootylicious by Destiny's Child.
I've never heard the song, but all I can imagine is that it's about licious booties. And you know what? For as like puerile as that subject might seem, I'm okay. It's like I'm actually okay in the eyes of, because to me the other 3 songs just show you that audiences don't care what's being thrown at them.
I still think my song beats your 3 because the hook of the song.
Oh, all 3?
Yeah, the hook of the song, I just looked up the lyrics. The hook of the song is, I don't think you're ready for this jelly.
Yeah, but some people aren't ready for the jelly, Michael. I mean, you're gonna have a hard time knocking my 3 off their perch because I hate those 3 songs. Hate them.
I don't think you're ready for this jelly. I don't think you're ready for this jelly. Because my body's too bootylicious for you, babe.
Why didn't Smuckers pick that up as like a jingle
right?
with the you know.
It could have been who was the old guy that they used to have?
Well, Willard Scott used to do the birthdays to the
Smuckers.
centenarians and on the weather. It was sponsored by Smuckers.
That could have been their intro song. I don't think you're ready for this jelly. I don't think you're ready for this jelly.
And see, that's catchy.
Because my body's too bootylicious for you, babe.
Destiny's Child.
Destiny's Child.
Well, if you ever know somebody named Destiny and you'd say, you know, if you ever get pregnant, whatever that kid is, it's Destiny's Child. So
I'm sure
just a reminder.
I'm sure there's a lot of baby daddies out there with Destiny's Child in their past.
Yeah, I think a better name actually for it would be Destiny's Child. So I don't think you're ready for this creamy jelly. Because I think, your ass isn't chapped quite enough yet. So Desitin. My mom used to put that stuff on my butt when I was a little boy, when I get diaper rash and stuff. I remember it to this day. Where's the Desitin, she'd say. Do they still make that stuff?
I appreciate it. Thank you, Chloe. Thank you.
How did that just happen?
Yeah, apparently they have servers here.
You didn't order anything. How does that happen if you don't order anything? Did you tell her? Did you phone in?
Or
you phoned in? Or do they do the app thing now? Are they doing?
It's better than that.
It's better than the app thing.
It's called the Neuralink.
The Neuralink.
The Neuralink.
In our town, that could be a bus ride. What's a Neuralink?
Yeah, or it could be a new STD, I guess.
Oh yeah, don't catch the Neuralink. What's the Neuralink? It's time.
Oh, the Neuralink. We have finally made it to the point where AI and technology meets man's brain. And we're not talking like the way you and I conceptualize technology. We're talking like literally at the source of your nervous system. That's what I'm talking about.
The base of your spine kind of shit.
Yeah. Well, I don't know exactly where they put the Neuralink, but our country has, our time has come where the first person to get a Neuralink chip in his brain, and I guess our friend Elon, and I know what you're going to say. Who?
Yeah, I don't know. Who? Like, you mean like the university in the Carolinas, the Phoenix, the Elon Phoenix? It's a
tell you gravitas
religious
can be
school.
difficult sometimes.
That Elon.
The man literally sounds like his whole voice is like a record going backwards, isn't his back masking? His whole gravitas. The devil is Lord. The devil is Lord. The devil is Lord. Okay.
Noland Arbaugh.
Okay.
Noland Arbaugh, the first
This is the recipient of the
Neuralink's brain computer interface, or BCI.
Okay, so what does this thing do? You talked to me about this not too long ago and said that this is the guy who's like a quadriplegic or something, and now he's not because of the Neuralink.
He still is a quadriplegic, but now he's able to play chess with his brain.
So how? Like, his brain still worked, but now his brain, thanks to the Neuralink, commands can actually be given to make things happen in the exterior world that he would ordinarily do manually with his arms or legs.
That's right. So he was in a car accident, and I'm trying to see. He's 31 years old. He was in a car accident and essentially was paralyzed from the shoulders down. A diving accident at a summer camp in 2016, which left the former Texas A&M student paralyzed from the shoulders down and obviously largely dependent on his family. For years, he said that he would just be like, my life is nothing now. Like, I go from being a college student to now just having no sensation in my body. He wakes up whenever he wants. He goes to bed whenever he wants. I mean, there's just nothing going on.
We're typically introduced to the flip side of his story. Usually when we're presented with stories about people who lose, either the function in their body entirely, quadriplegics, paraplegics, people that go blind or deaf or lose, both in accidents, we're always showed the spirit of triumph with them moving on. But I think that's probably a rarity. I would imagine most people are more like this when that happens, and they have a really hard time saying, what is my life going to be about now?
Right. So he has a fully functioning brain, but everything from his neck down is essentially not working anymore the way it used to. And so he was teamed up somehow with this Neuralink company, which was co-founded by Elon Musk. And again, this guy here.
I tell you, gravitas can be difficult sometimes.
And they spent years developing and testing technology on animals before receiving FDA approval. I want to know what the animals were able to do with their Neuralinks.
Yeah. Ask for more pellets from the hamsters were... Unfortunately, they probably paralyzed a lot of hamsters and chimpanzees
sure they were
to do this.
Inconvenienced to be able to do it. But I guess the story is that after about a 2-hour surgery, by implanting a coin-sized chip beneath his skull connected over 11 or 1,000 electrodes that can read neurological activity and translate it into digital commands. So he is now able to... And they did a little test on this. There's a video, and he was able to essentially play chess with somebody by just thinking about moving the pieces. And this is electronic chess. This isn't like physical chess.
The pieces are connected to the device.
It's like a game. So it's like there's a digital display.
They didn't impart the ability for telekinesis to this guy. That hasn't come around just yet.
No, that's probably going to be in 2.0 or 3.0.
Yeah. I would think down at least 3.0.
Maybe it's 5G.0. But anyway.
And you'll have to download Windows Office to get it. So.
Oh, I'm sure. He's going to have to do a lot of updates between now and then. And there's going to be a lot of Windows blue screens. But no, I mean, essentially what it has done is this is the first person who ever has a electronic device in their brain to translate the commands that a nervous system is putting out into digital code, which can then tell a machine what to do. Yeah. Very Xavier is Dr. X. Charles
Xavier?
Yeah, from X-Men.
From X-Men,
yeah. It's very X-Men-esque.
It's quite a piece of technology, but then come the question marks, because I think about that thing that's going around. It's one of many things. There's trillions of things going around online, but I remember talking to you about it. It's been a while ago now, but I told you it was the greatest story that I think I'd ever seen yet about what the mark of the beast was going to be. And it was that tale that somebody spun about it was a chip that people started having put in their bodies at a young age that would actually predict basically when debilitating diseases were coming on so they could be completely avoided. And that was really kind of the benchmark of the tech, but it could also... I guess it could spritz things into your system. It could prevent a cold before it happened, all these kinds of things. And then eventually the technology, while it seemed great at first, it started dividing people, much like vaccinations have done now, because you have, of course, a big anti-vaxxer community, and then you have a big pro-vax community, and then you have all the people that are kind of stuck in the shuffle saying, well, I can see pros and cons. And to me, those are the people that are smartest, because they're seeing both sides of the issue and not just radically rushing to one or the other and saying all of them are bad or all of them are good. But anyway, in the storyline, the chip causes a rive in society. And if you don't get it, you're ridiculed and outcast. And you're also cut out of the health insurance schematic if you won't get it. So you're responsible for your medical bills. It's hard to find coverage. And so it really starts to hardwire itself into our system. And it seems great at first, but the problem with it is that it slowly begins to take over all of the human function. Mm-hmm. It begins to actually replace desires for simple pleasures like the warm sun on your face or a field of flowers, and people basically give their souls over to it. It like takes over the will to live. And so we're given over to tech, and we do it surreptitiously. So it's a hell of a story. I mean, I thought to myself, I really haven't decided yet on a fundamental, one absolute mark of the beast story that I like, but that's a pretty damn good one. I thought, that's not bad. So I'm immediately thinking of that, of course, as we talk about this tech. And
yeah.
So if it just remains, I think, on a level where it's going to help people and there's nothing else to it, and it doesn't become this politicized issue, because that was a big part of the story. And isn't it interesting how everything that we politicize does become toxic just immediately, no matter which side of whatever aisle you're on?
No.
It's just toxic. Yeah.
What?
So, okay, this is very cool. I mean, again, thanks to all of the animals, undoubtedly, that were purposefully paralyzed so that this tech could be tested, because we often forget our friends that are giving up their lives and livelihoods here for that purpose. But it's been suggested by some that that's part of why they are here. I don't know about that, but
well, and why is it always chess? Why is it that always every technology that comes out, it's always like they set up this like scientific demonstration, and now we're going to play chess. And I believe the internet was also kind of like tested this way at one point too, where it's like, okay, two people in two different cities are going to be able to play chess with each other. Yeah. It always starts with chess. And then before you know it, it's Pornhub.
Pornhub chess, which is just, as Mel Brooks said, jump the queen, jump the queen, jump the queen, jump the queen.
It goes from chess to Pornhub in like no time.
Yeah, well, again, technology is marvelous, but there's a lesson. There's always another side to it. It's always the intent. I hate to keep underscoring that one, but I always feel like it's the intent, because everything we do goes back to our intent, and it goes back to our individual intent and our collective intent. So when Pornhub is quickly born out of, we were doing this to help, babies that were dying of diseases, or people who weren't able to live or experience a full enough life, yeah, that's on us, because it's fallen into those hands. And, we don't want to regulate it to death, though. We also don't want to say, well, you can't use it for Pornhub. But it would be nice if we lived in a world that was more interested in getting on board with helping people that really needed it, than the getting off again and again when we just did and don't really need to do it again, because that's what Pornhub kind of boils down to.
Oh, so. Well, and I think that at some point it has to go from the laboratory to then, everyday world. And I think that's where kind of this feedback loop of human society, technology, there's this constant kind of evolution that happens with these two things side by side. And then society says, okay, well, why don't we use it for this purpose? Or why don't we use it for that purpose? And then that's when it kind of then starts going in all these different directions. I mean, I'm sure when Henry Ford first rolled out the first Model T, I don't know that in his brain he immediately said, oh, now we're going to have freeways, and now we're going to have all of these, large infrastructure that's going to have to be built in order to, get all of these cars from point A to point B. I mean, just think in general, how many things have been created just to support the automobile.
Yeah, he didn't know he was creating, he was literally checking off one of the Hopi prophecy boxes for mass infrastructure that was going to take over the planet and make Gaia a dirty, again, it's just, it shouldn't be troublesome to know that technology, I mean, obviously if I'm this guy and it's the next best thing that can be done because I live in 2025 to literally giving my body its ability to move back again, then yeah, I'm probably feeling a little better about my plight at this point. But it's also not a cure-all. You have to remember that. We can't also stand back and just praise ourselves for inventing such a technology and then saying, well, this person should be grateful to receive it. Because has anybody polled him? I'm sure it's just all over the papers about being the greatest thing, because we love to praise technology because, again, it's big business, and big business and tech runs a lot of the world. So, of course, they're going to toot their own horns, but I wonder how this person really feels about it. I wonder if it's, oh my God, this is truly life-changing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Or if it's, I'm not really so much impressed. This doesn't do much for me, actually. Thanks for trying, but no. Or if it's I'm guessing it's probably somewhere in the middle. Wow, this is nice, and it does make my days of being, not being able to move my arms and legs go by a little bit better. But it's certainly not fixing me. It's not putting me back the way that I was.
Well,
which,
it's
of course,
still
is the ultimate wish.
It's still the honeymoon period, right? So he just had this surgery like a week ago, and it's something that has been in the works for many years. And I'm sure that he can do more than just play chess with his mind. Yeah. But at the same time, I think then that's when you start to go into well, what's the next question? What else can this do? And so I think that
and I think even another question is, what is this already doing in military applications?
Well, there you go.
It has been for the last 20 years.
And it's not going to just end with this ability to play chess. It's probably going to multiply light years ahead of, before you know it, the man is probably going to be able to walk again, because now all of a sudden his nervous system, which was severed, is going to now be able to communicate with his body parts again, and he's going to be walking around because of the Neuralink.
But I think the even better backside question on top of that possibility is, will he even want to? Because the Neuralink will be in so many homes and offices delivering experiences
of
artificial nature.
Yeah.
Why would we? You don't need to walk ever again. All you do is just sit down and it plugs into your asshole, and the rest of your life is literally controlled by 3 or 4 buttons that you just think about pressing.
Right. Yeah. Do you remember like the old adage when like people would say like, yeah, I had a metal plate installed in my head. But now, the only thing is now when I stand too close, I sound like
Cousin Eddie,
Johnny Carson. Now when I stand too close to the
Johnny Carson did not have a metal plate.
Well, it just sounds like a joke that Johnny Carson would tell. Now when I stand too close to the microwave, I can hear Russian radio.
Yeah, picked up Radio Moscow.
Radio Moscow.
In my fillings.
Yes, in my fillings. Yes. That was a good one. So no, now what is it? So now when it starts, when the barometric pressure gets too low, he starts to bark like a dog. Is that the case? Or
there's all those. There's a million jokes about the steel plate and the pacemaker. I remember the pacemaker spurred a lot of jokes, like, every time he burps, the garage door opens. And that's an old Waylon Flowers joke when he used to do Madam. He's a funny guy.
Well, now this man could probably think about opening the garage door and it would open.
Well, and again, we talk about the literal guinea pigs that may have given up, a piece of their livelihoods or their lives in general to make this guy, give him this ability. But how much is he now a literal pawn, a literal guinea pig in the game of what other applications does this have for people whose arms and legs work just fine? And is this not all? This is a real grand, conspiracy, I suppose, but is this not all just the finest, most polished show of rolling out a tech that is absolutely designed to interfere with your free will, that's injected into your body? And
there you go.
We're going to roll it out so that it's helping the most helpless people in our world, literally only neck up and barely that, hates to be alive. It's the tragic story. It's sad. It happens all the time, sadly, but it's, it's one of those things. So we roll it out to partially fix this guy, make him better. He's happy. But the next thing you know, it's going in everybody because, you know what? I just don't. And it's funny because it seems to me, it's not funny, but it is kind of ironic because humans are so pathetic and miserable. All of this stuff, I mean, right down to the things that your phone do. You know how you can, from your phone, you're talking about the garage door. Like, I'm in Tampa and I live in Minnesota, and I can see who's outside right now on my phone. I can open the garage door for Lenny next door so he can let the cat in. I can, fill the dog's water dish. Well, the guy I do the morning show with just told me they just got some tech feeders for their cats so they can not only program when the food goes in the dish from, halfway around the globe. They can be in, Stad and just go, oh, cat needs to be fed, and boop, a button on their phone, and provided that there's a good connection, it happens back at home. And then they can also look in. There's a camera, so they can look in on their little kitties and say hello. There's a microphone too. Hello, kitties. And the kids go, Jesus, this is so fucking weird. What's going on? Who put what in my food? Where? They're gone. They're in Stad. They're not supposed to be here. Why can I hear them? So all of that, we have all of this technology now. We can literally change the temperature of the fridge setting when we're on vacation, but it all seems to go back to one device, one piece of automation, the remote control, the television.
Yeah.
Doesn't it all go back to the remote? Am I wrong? Just that horrible notion that I'm seated comfortably in my living space and I'm watching Ralph as the man from space on the Honeymooners again. I love this episode. I've seen it a million times, but here we are. And I just, the ball game's on 4, this is on 7, and this is over in 5 minutes. And I'm already dreading the thought about having to get up and use those legs that this guy would love to have the use of again. I don't even want to think about having to get up and go the 17 inches between where I'm seated and where the TV is to change the fucking channel. I've got to have something to do it remotely. And so thusly, the remote was invented. And it seems to me like it just all funnels back to that one.
The remote control.
The remote control for the TV is like the devil. It's literally like it's like the devil's seed in all of this. It's like the thing that started all of it on a downhill spiral of convenience.
Okay, so let's take it a step further. Now that we know that we can play chess with our mind bullets, and I can order coffee just by thinking about it. So you know what it really makes me think about? Like, what are the opportunities here? And this is the first thing that came to my mind.
Honey, you won't believe it. Toonces can drive a car.
Toonces are a cat?
Yeah, come on, I'll show you.
What a perfect day for a drive.
Isn't that pretty?
It's a fantastic day.
Yeah.
Now the cat can drive a car.
Now the cat can drive the car.
See,
Well, the
I
car
told you
can-
he could drive.
The car can drive the car. I guess you could put the cat at the wheel. Because the cat still has to focus on driving the car. So
Well, yeah, but now the
ostensibly it has
Neuralink.
to learn how to drive the car.
Now the Neuralink can make the cat drive the car.
I think if you put a Neuralink in any dog or cat, at least any domesticated one, the food is just going to keep tipping over and over and over again. Like this literally is all they're going to want. The fridge will keep opening.
Before you
or
know it,
something.
Toonces has hacked the system.
So I feel like this is leading up to the obligatory question, what would you and I do with this technology, provided that it wasn't going to take control of our
You
bodies?
know me
like
too
the
well.
beast, right? Provided that this tech is not, in fact, a forerunner to the beast of the apocalypse, destroying all of our lives, then what would we do with it, right?
Yeah, right? Besides just make our cats and dogs drive cars.
That's a good question, because we are all sold on automation. I mean, again, as much as I can frame it historically and say the damn remote control, I would be just the same. I had to get up and change the channel. I'd just be livid. I'd just be like, come on.
Well,
you know how it is when the batteries die or whatever.
Yeah, that is such a great example too of what this technology can do, because I feel like we always want to just like give all control over. Just we don't want to deal with that anymore. We just want to give it all over to this new technology, right?
Yeah, we're very good at handing over our free will to tech these days. There are people lining up to get microchipped just so they can have all of their health records inside their body, or like their driver's license. Like basically their wallet is just chipped inside of them, and you go in. This is new tech that's I don't know if anybody has it yet, but I've seen it profiled. It's literally like your everything that you would have in a document style fashion right now is computer grade. It's digitized and it's put into a chip that's in you. And like, that's a great idea. Like, just, you can start with the movie Gattaca and then work your way back to 1984. That's just a suggestion from me. Like, if you don't think you're tracked now with your cell phone going everywhere with you, imagine if you had an actual chip in you. But that's another thing that, it's great. And people are lining up for this. They want this because, how convenient. Then I've got all my credit cards on there. I know my balances immediately. I've got my ideas on there. I've got everything. And they just scan you everywhere you go. They just scan you, scan. And I've just become a scannable object. I've become an item with a barcode whose ass gets swiped as it goes through the reader and stuffed in a bag to go out the door. You're literally, you're as low as that now. That's what we've reduced ourselves to. But I'm sure there's a convenience in there somewhere that I would be on board with, provided, again, this tech had been fully vetted not to be a beta tester for the beast of the apocalypse, because I just don't need that shit in my life. You know what I mean? I just fully intent on skipping the whole beast of the apocalypse thing. I've had conversations about this, with my rabbi. It's like, and he's not even Jewish, and neither one of us are even Christians. So, and I was just like, you could just skip the whole beast of the apocalypse thing if you ask me. So.
No,
one of them said, I don't know. What about you? I mean,
I don't know that I would really want to do anything.
Crispin Glovering. Nothing's coming to my mind.
No, I mean, I think really what we've just kind of proven is that there is clearly a disconnect between how we view this technology and the technology that we've used our entire life. I mean, just this whole idea that you have to physically pick something up. You don't have to do that.
Well, I'll tell you, here's what we'll do. I'll try and identify some by just going through my day to this point. How's that? So you think about waking up in the morning, and hopefully the thing's not going to wake up for you, but obviously it's your alarm clock. So it's going to, no longer is there that horrible alarm that's attached to your phone.
You just wake up.
The one that says good vibrations. And then it's just like, whoever made that song should die, because I don't know what that is, but it's awful. And it can't help but wake you up because you hate it and you want to smash your phone into a million pieces when you hear it.
Or it's like Bill Murray on Groundhog Day. I got you, babe. Dun, 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 dun.
That's better than waking up to a lot of things I can think of. But instead, it probably sends a pulse through your body. It's just and then you're up. It's just like an electroshock therapy thing, right? There's no more alarm like that. So it gets you up. Now, would I want that? No. And so then the very next move is, of course, you just shamble off to the bathroom, and in starts the bathroom stuff. And for women, of course, this can be a very protracted event. It can take hours every morning, depending on their level of ritual. For most men, it's not that involved. Me, I'm ready in about 20 minutes, and most of it is actually just trying to tame my hair a lot of days. But I can't really see too much of that process being taken out of a manual, because I have to do my hair. Right. I'm not going to trust the machine. Won't be able to do it. It'll be too clunky and weird, and it just wouldn't work. It's that thing. So I'm not thinking of anything in that whole part of my day that it's going to help with. Now,
well, and I got a question. What happens if people have a hard time making up their mind? and you're thinking one thing, and then you're thinking of another thing, and then you're thinking of another thing, and you're like, no, wait, ah.
The tech has an auto vacillation switch, and it just cancels out. The very first thing you think of is what it goes with. So you better fucking be ready, Tony, because you're done after that. It's just it literally latches on to. Or you could have a switch where you get like 2 chances.
Right.
You get 1 change of mind because there's a 3-second delay.
There's like a buffer.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it just and then the triangle just comes up and says condition unknown.
Oh, I drive to work, and I'm going to drive for the rest of my life if I can. Robo-cars. I just heard this thing about robo-taxis in the city the other day and how they're replacing people. It's not going to. I'm not going to be driven by a robot. It's just that's weird to me. So I don't want it doing that.
Let's talk about like the commute then. So like let's say you choose to have the Neuralink be able to drive your vehicle for you. Well, what happens to the person who's sitting there and goes, "Oh man, I just really want to get past this red light," and they take off, and their car crashes into a bunch of people, and then what happens? Well, at court they say, "Well, it was the Neuralink's fault because he wasn't under his own control. It was Neuralink that was controlling the vehicle. It wasn't Jack Hansen." Yeah,
but the Neuralink, brought to you by Progressive Insurance, no doubt, or the one that actually has the little holographic picture of the fucking Geico gecko that you can get too. I mean, they're going to stop down that stuff. You're not going to have the mental ability to say, jack the light, let's go, because your car won't function. They'll literally figure out, they want to do that now, with that whole snapshot from Progressive. I actually know dumbasses who do this to save money. It's like, really? You want the insurance company riding along with you in some, digital, some automated way in your fucking car? You have to be the most insane motherfucker I've ever met in my life. You're literally handing them the keys to charging you more. They're going to analyze every single thing you do in one driving year or cycle, and you're going to be fucked. I mean, that's like inviting the worst person you could get at the DMV, and we had one here. Nobody wanted the big, tall ex-state trooper that worked for the DMV that gave you your driver's test.
He was the one who did my driver's test.
He was the one. You know who I'm talking about.
I do.
See? Nobody wants that guy. That's like picking that guy to sit in your car 24 hours a day, but instead of working for the state, it's worse. He works for big insurance, and they're up your ass already enough, and now they're colon scraping. Jesus, you got to be kidding me. So I don't see that being a part of this, because they're gonna put in those safeguards, and of course they're gonna build in all this corporateering as well, because they don't want you to, like I said, be able to just blow the light. I'm trying to get to a part in my day where I'm annoyed enough with a remedial task that I want it to be automated, and I haven't. The closest one I can arrive at is this, and that's the Keurig. But now that's basic Star Trek. That's basic Earl Grey hot. That's Star Trek Next Generation stuff, where you just literally give a voice command, and physically there's already K-cups or whatever they are on the Starship Enterprise this time in the thing, along with some loose leaf tea. But they also have this holodeck thing where, it's all artificial, and your senses are just tricked into think that you're drinking Earl Grey hot.
Right.
But so that's the closest one that I can think of, is just my coffee, which I'm drinking again, and to just have to be able to go back and in front of a screen or a little panel, just say, my Chris or Jack's coffee hot, or, Jack's coffee with cream, or, whatever it might be.
It's interesting because I think last time, didn't we talk about saunas?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. So one of the things that that article had brought up was that people returning to saunas is kind of like this. It is a process that is not digital. It's very analog.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really kind of goes back to humans needing to simplify things and break it down to its very core element. And so, in a way, it kind of is like that, where now if we do have these chips, we're like giving away that basic pleasure of having something hot in our hand, or the process of drinking something. Or because, I mean, if you think about it, you could automate that process as well. I mean, that could be completely just cut out of the equation altogether. And so what are you left with?
Intravenously.
Right.
Just Starbucks, come try the new, the hell with Starbucks pickup location, Starbucks IV. Come in.
You don't even need to eat anymore.
It goes right, and they pop it right in a vein, and and you don't even taste it, but you get this overwhelming sensation of chestnut praline throughout your whole body. It's like I used to tell my ex-wife when we'd go eat spumoni, because I loved spumoni so much, and I was just like, you know what, honey? When I get to heaven, there's going to be an entire room that's the spumoni room, and I'm going to be able to experience spumoni in every way that's physically possible within corporeal existence. And I think one of my favorites is going to be the rectal room. And she's just like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm just like, the rectal spumoni, baby. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about my favorite ice cream flavor jammed up my ass, and yet in some weird way, my sphincter tastes it, and it resonates in my whole body in a way that my tongue could never. That's what I'm talking about right there. I'm talking about rectal fucking spumoni. So, yeah, I mean, same thing. Same thing.
It's like what we're witnessing right now, folks, is the evolution from chess to rectal spumoni.
Well,
that's exactly
delicious.
What we're witnessing is this evolution, like we talked about, of this technology and how it goes from chess to Pornhub and everything else in between.
Well, because let's face it, at the end of the day, look, I'll admit, I've had my fair share of sex. It's nice. There's been good. There's been not the greatest. We've all had our experience with that. Some people are, in fact, a lot of people are just driven by sex. I'm not one of those people. I find it enjoyable, sometimes even just remotely amusing. Sometimes I even find it in a married situation absolutely just, it's like mowing the lawn. It's just like, get it done to get it done, pleasure your partner. It's just, it can be a lot of ways. Spumoni is different. Spumoni is like, and I'm not a foodie either. I'm not into eating everywhere and, eating everything I see and have this giant appetite. I watch my weight and I try to watch what I eat, but there is something about taste. And that's where foodies are born, of course, is they just can't get enough of tasting things. It has to be that, but it's a whole experience beyond that. You know that because it's such a textural experience too. Just talk to the Japanese. Why do you think they always have little things floating in everything they drink? Because it's a textural experience too. They like to chew them as the liquid is actually swirled in their mouth.
Yeah.
Or good. I mean, so something about eating is just a remarkable experience. So that's why I'm saying if we could get spumoni's flavor and, the coldness of it and the creamy texture translated into slather my gallbladder with it in some way and let me experience the bile secretions in spumoni flavors. Oh yeah. I mean, just this endorphin rush that's flavored like something, we're talking about overriding your entire body's systems to just be like, one thing, to be flavored. It's kind of like smoking. Have you ever smoked at all?
Oh, yeah.
In your life, like tried a cigarette?
Oh, yeah.
Because I remember, and the thing is I smoked for 7 years or so before I, put it down because I made a deal with my body. And, I think I've told that story, but 7-8 years I smoked, but nothing is like the first one you ever have. Nothing. And that's every smoker the world over, bar none, hands down, no arguments whatsoever. Your first cigarette is always your best one. I'm not talking about the one you choke on at 9 years old in the closet because you found your dad's marbs or something. I'm talking about the first one that you can really handle with adult lungs or adult enough lungs, and you pull that nicotine infused tobacco and all that other shit into your lungs, and you get that rush and you just go, oh my God, I can see why people do this. And then it's never the same again, but it's habitual. You just keep doing it, partially because of the chemicals they impart in it to keep you doing it. But all that aside, what if you could experience that every time, but it was like throughout your entire body, not just your vascular system? I don't know. We sort of got off the track, but I'm thinking that that's the way that we're going to be going with this, because we are sensationalist beings in the sense that we love to experience sensations, but I think it's like Hellraiser. I don't know if you're familiar with those movies, but the whole concept is the guy has been everywhere and done everything that is known to man as far as pleasuring the human body is concerned. And we're talking sex, pain, pleasure, he's done it all. And so these Cenobites, I was fascinated with that story when I was younger, and I still am, because they're neutral. We made horror movies out of them because they're these things, but they even say, like in the book, The Hellbound Heart, in the movie, the original Hellraiser by Clive Barker, when Kirsty, who, by the way, is played by a very sweet woman who we met earlier this year at a HorrorCon, and she signed this picture for us and everything, Ashley Lawrence. She's just awesome. So hello, Ashley, if you're out there, if you're ever listening, thank you so much. You were very kind. But she even says when they first appear to her in the hospital, and she asks, "Who are you?" And they say, "Explorers from further dimensions of experience, demons to some, angels to others." And so I always loved the neutrality that he imparted in that. But what they are is they're basically these things, to me, at least, they're these things that go around and they're about imparting experience. It's like, well, whether you want the experience or not, you've asked for it. Now, there's a downside because most people get ripped into shreds by, hooks and chains, but that's part of the fun, you see. So, but we're hooked on that. And we really are. We are absolutely in love with experiential things. That's why we can't get enough roller coasters or all this external stimulation that we go for nowadays. So I can't help but think this technology is going to wind up going down that path larger than others. But
was Doug Bradley, was Pinhead at the...
We met Doug Bradley too. Nice fella. Real. You talk about a talker, man, he'll talk your ear off, but nice guy. Very nice bloke, as they would say, because he's British. Ashley's British. American, but yes, but he's very much British. Kindly. Yes.
Ashley Lawrence.
And if you ask Doug a question, get ready to spend 36 minutes getting an answer. I mean, he's that detail oriented about things. I think it was his birthday actually not too long ago. I want to say he's a Virgo, but anyway, yeah, we met both of them actually at the HorrorCon. Nice people. Wild ride, to think that that's what you wound up doing essentially with your life and a career aspect. So, yeah,
I would imagine that was a very popular movie. And I was far too young when it first came out to be able to watch it. I might have to watch that movie.
It's very gory. I mean, so just be ready for that. But if you can get past the gore, the story, I think, is really... You could read The Hellbound Heart, too. That's the novella that it's based on. Uh-huh. And it's a good read. And it's very steeped in salacious material, but there's a reason why. And because it's about... like I said, just the seeking of stimulation. It's about the seeking of not just pleasure, but about physical stimulations, about sensations and experiences that are transcendent of the corporeal, but they are similar. They're not, I think the way he frames them in the book, if I recall, it's been a long time since I've read the book, but if I recall, he frames them so as they're not angelic in nature. They're not, they don't supersede or transcend this dimension to the point where you can't understand them or comprehend them in some way that would be quasi-physical. Even these experiences that are outside of the human body box are still experienced in a similar way, if that makes any sense. So it's not angelic. It's not metaphysical. It's still very physical, but it's not grounded in the physical because what's being done to you is so outrageous, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if it's just because of this podcast, but I just thought of a very interesting turn of events here. If you go to Google and you click on somebody now, say like a person, like actor Doug Bradley, it'll then down below, it says recently viewed, and only you can view these things. What do you think the 4 people are that just popped up on my recently viewed people page is Ashley Lawrence,
Okay.
Jeffrey Jones, and Barney and Betty Hill.
Oh, wow. Barney and Betty Hill, the anniversary is today. Or
Is it?
tomorrow, I'm sorry.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, my co-host on the morning show is actually soloing tomorrow. I'm going to take the morning off. And he got everything ready. He does a This Day in History feature, which I don't. I typically just do birthdays and then those stupid things they have on the calendar, like it's National Chocolate Donut with Rainbow Sprinkles Day and all that crap.
Yeah.
He actually does a This Day in History thing. And he mentioned to me today that Betty and Barney Hill, the anniversary of their experience with would-be extraterrestrials was tomorrow's date, September 19th.
Yeah.
And this would have been back in 62?
61. 1961.
Okay, 61. There we go. So,
Route 3.
Good old Route 3 in Vermont, if I'm not mistaken.
New Hampshire.
Or was it New Hampshire? New
In
Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
Okay.
Yeah, it is kind of an interesting site. The state of New Hampshire actually has a sign on the side of the highway that reads Betty and Barney Hill incident.
Well, they put up a marker for it?
They put up a marker.
That's fucking cool. I didn't know
They
that.
put up a marker. So according to the state of New Hampshire, this is the site of where it all started.
And to some ufologists, especially, again, those that follow the lineage that Stephen Greer preaches and teaches, and it's really undeniable regardless of why you think that happened, or if there is a why, if maybe just like, okay, the ones that were a little more nefarious showed up at that time. It's that simple. And before that, we were just getting space friends or space brothers, as they call them. But that is a pivotal moment in experiencer history, because that's the moment that the probing started. That's the moment that the experience became incredibly negative in nature, was Betty and Barney Hill. Prior to that, it was very simple interactions with beings that often very much looked like we do. They were very human looking. Most of the stories were as simple as Jeff got in his car going home from work from the factory outside Milwaukee one evening. While driving along, he experienced some bright lights, and the next thing you know, he was stopped and outside of his vehicle, and there were two people wearing interesting clothing that said, "Hey, how you doing, Jeff? We've been watching you for a few hours now. You want to come see the Earth with us in our spaceship?" And Jeff would either say, "That sounds like a great thing. I was looking for something to do tonight. That sounds awesome." Or, "No, thank you. I'm completely fucking freaked out at this point. Can I go?" "Absolutely. We're sorry to trouble you." That was always the deal. And if Jeff went up and experienced what was visible from outer space, he came back and told tales to his wife. And then the dark suited men would show up and say, "Stop fucking talking about that." So there was the MIB phenomenon goes back further than the Greys, because the first real known instance of the Greys and all the stuff that was seen in Communion and talked about by Whitley Strieber, and in the movie, of course, portrayal, the weird thing with the suit with the eyes that looked like a vacuum cleaner head to me, with Christopher Walken. All of that really started with Betty and Barney Hill. There were no experiencer or abduction. They weren't abductions before that. They were ride-alongs, basically. It was, "Hey, how'd you like a little joyride in our vehicle? We'll do the driving because we know all the controls, but we just want to basically let you know that we exist and say hello." But after that, it was a forcible experience. It was something that forcibly happened. You were taken aboard and they probed you and all that. So that's where all that began, was with Betty and Barney Hill in 61. So that's a very important marker in history of ufology, regardless of, again, why you think it may have happened, if there's a why. So.
Right. And in 1961 is supposedly when it happened, but then in 1965, it was actually reported. So it went 4 years before it was actually reported to the public.
Yeah. And that's part of the problem, of course, because then, the dress that Betty had supposedly gotten some of the, I forget, it was fluids of some kind that they were using or something like that, supposed to have gotten on her dress. And by then, of course, the samples were inconclusive because it had retarded enough or deteriorated enough that it was, they couldn't And it's not like they'd tell us anyway, because you'd have to think that if the men in black suits are able to find you after no one has seen you on a dark, dusky road one night when you've seen the lights in the sky, you'd have to guess that if you were going to be taking evidence to a laboratory, they would be all over it. So I don't know. It's fascinating stuff. And that's really neat that the state of New Hampshire, the Granite State, by the way, put up a marker on the side of the road for Betty and Barney. That's really neat.
That is the cool thing about Jack, ladies and gentlemen, is that if you ever want to know your state mottos or...
Oh, God, no. No.
Really?
I don't know mottos that well. Not mottos, no. Because mottos are all those Latin
Well, I
things.
guess nicknames. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know a lot of them. I can't say I would ace that exam.
What's
the
Virginia?
Exam that I would ace is probably world capitals and countries.
What's Virginia?
For as much as I don't believe in, pissed lines in the sand to create division, I actually am interested in geography. Virginia?
Yeah.
Oh, see, I don't. It's a weird one, as I recall.
I think it's like the Lovers State or something.
The Lovers State.
Now you got me thinking.
I thought Virginia was like one of those ones that's like really weird. It's one of those. It's the land of such and such and such. It's not a da-da-da-da state.
Yeah, the motto
Right.
is Virginia is for lovers.
Really?
Yeah, and my sister and I always joke about that because we think it's hilarious. It's like, why would that be your state motto?
It's incredibly counterintuitive because the word virgin is in your state, Virginia. So that doesn't sound like too much lovin's going on just yet. I would think maybe that would be West Virginia. Like we're west of virginity now, so this is the state for lovers. But over there in Virginia, he's gone into game show mode, folks.
I know. Let's just get off of that one. Do you want to hit him with a download before we leave?
Well, I'll tell you what. I won't hit you with a download today so much as I'll hit you with something that came up last night. And as I told you earlier, I don't want to get off the rails too much because some of it was premised in a subject that we're not going to tackle on this show because there's no end to it and it's divisive and it's designed to be. And there's no sorting it out as far as I'm concerned.
Are you talking about taxes?
Maybe, but wouldn't want to say, so apparently now I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised because every group of people, no matter how you identify with them, every kind of person who could group themselves in as well, I'm, from political persuasions to ethnicities to religious backgrounds or religious beliefs to, everything, anything you can lump together, somebody takes aim at it. Somebody is throwing stones at it because that's just the world we live in today. As you would probably know about Jack, he doesn't identify with very many of those groups. Even if he, by census survey, let's say, absolutely is included in one of them, it's meaningless to me that I'm included in such a group.
You're
Age,
a one-man wolf pack.
race, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because this is a group of people, and online there's a bigger, movement is the wrong word because it's not a movement, because I think honestly, 50% or more of the people that profess to be this are probably not. They're really just wannabes. And that could include me. I'm being fair and including myself that this might just be something that I've imagined over the years, but it's been with me since I was a kid. But anyway, that's being a starseed, for lack of a better term. There's also indigo children, rainbow children, crystal children. There are generations of children. And the theory, of course, is that the energy that comprises the stuff that makes you, not your physical body, but the energy that gives you gives substance to the personality, to the identity that you achieve when you're
your soul.
Here. Yeah, okay, fine. Your soul, for lack of, I guess, a different term that's less identifiable or more like arcane. You're not from this neighborhood. The idea is that you're not in one. You're not in the mode where you're here to experience the earth and go through the paces of what it's like to be an earthly critter. You're not in that mode. You are from somewhere else, where either there's a different mode for existing, or you've already passed through this neighborhood and gone through that already, and now you're circling back to try and assist those at a time of great peril for the planet and for its inhabitants. Well, that apparently has drawn the ire of a few people, and they're taking aim at it, calling people who identify as starseeds elitists and all kinds of other ists along with it, which, again, like I said, I'm not getting into because it's a waste of time, because it's just a way to continue an argument with no end. But the only thing that I would say about this is it's interesting because it's not something that I'm used to, because I do identify as that quite a bit. I don't think I've given my entire life over to it. I don't live as an indigo. I don't live as a starseed necessarily at all times. In fact, I think some of the remedial aspects of my life, and certainly some of the habitual aspects of my life, are very human in nature. So I don't know if that's just part of the experience that you can't get around. It's kind of like, almost being a narc that's 30 years old that looks like they're in high school. So they send them back there to blend in, to bust the drug dealers kind of thing, like 21 Jump Street. And there are certain things that when you party with the kids, you just can't get around, and you kind of like them, even though it's part of the job and you're not supposed to, if that's a good way enough to explain it. So I don't live my entire life with indigo lenses on saying, I'm an indigo child, and, every single thing about me is defined as such. And, but I will say this. I mean, obviously I take exception to the fact that people who don't identify as starseeds or don't understand the notion of what it would be like to be a starseed would think that all starseeds would be pompous assholes who are better than everybody else. Because I will tell you this, for as misanthropic as I can present, even like here on the podcast, that is a sequela of being here as a starseed. That is a frustration that for some, like myself, needs to manifest verbally at times to be able to get it out. It's a cathartic exercise to get that frustration out, because at the core of who I am is an incredibly egalitarian belief, is an incredible egalitarian person. All things, not just people as we define them, not just souls, all things, rocks, trees, grains of sand, anything that's made up of the energy that we all come from, which is everything, it all has equal merit. So it's not just egalitarian on a human level. There's not a word for it that I'm aware of. It's universitarian, I guess. I mean, it's everything. So I just want to put that out there, and I wouldn't guess there'd be too many starseed haters that would be listening to this podcast. But
no,
if you're bashing the starseed people, or folks that maybe they're not really starseeds, you know what? Maybe there's nothing to it. Maybe we're just misguided people in an experience that has gone astray for some. Maybe there's no merit to this. We believe that it very much could be a real phenomenon, that we are here, or the energy that comprises us is here from sort of a different space that's out there, or we have been sent on some kind of a mission that's important. Those are important things to have, and it's no different than a Christian or a Jew or a Muslim or someone of a theological persuasion, or even of a career persuasion like a doctor or a lawyer, people that want to help people. Those are mission statements, and a mission statement to be here is a reason to be here, and even if it's imagined, it's important at the end of the day. So all you nihilists out there who are throwing rocks at starseeds, and even wannabe starseeds who probably aren't real starseeds, if there even is such a thing, back the fuck off, because you don't know what you're talking about, because you're talking to one of them right here. And I know that that's not going to happen. It's just fuel for the fire. But I'm just basically trying to impart a lesson here about one side of the equation, because the reason it troubles me is because when I'm told about this, I'm happy that that the starseed, and again, I don't want to call it a movement, but that the idea of being a starseed has risen beyond novelty, that it's broad enough now on social media that it's a way to be that's interesting to people. Even if I'm not from a galaxy far, far away and have been sent to do this special thing to help out humanity or the earth or whatever, that's a wonderful notion, wonderful premise to live your life on. And I'll tell you what, it's a fucking dangerous one for the powers that be, for the ones that are here controlling everything right now. So it's no surprise to me that they would be sending operatives into chat rooms everywhere to try and blow up the notion of being a starseed and why it's uncool. Because that's exactly what I feel is at work. Yeah, you're going to have your outliers. You're going to have your people, like I said, that are just nihilist assholes to the core, and they don't believe in anything, and they just are what they are for whatever reason. We got to love them back too, just the same, but we don't have to tolerate their shit. So what I am, like I said, kind of the backside of this is, while I'm really pleased to hear that there's enough forward momentum with the notion that, hey, I could be a starseed, and that's cool because I'm here for a good reason, a good purpose, and that's to do good, progressive things for myself, those around me, the planet, and try to help other people. Those are good mission statements, again, whether they're artificially created or not. But they're bad for business, and you know what I mean. So that troubles me to learn that we've got operatives, in my opinion, in no doubt, some cases, going into some of these chats and whatever people. I don't do that stuff, I don't know about it. But basically trying to break up the band. And remember, we've talked about this on the podcast a few times. The peace movement of the 60s, these are all hippies who are into free love in what was the age of Pisces still, actually. But, they wanted the age of Aquarius to dawn, and it finally has, and they were precursors to that. And so, all the freedom of expression and love and everything was flowing, and it was getting somewhere. The war movement was losing momentum, and not just with people who were already against it. I'm talking about the people on the couch that don't want to get up and, switch the channels on the ball game on their Zenith in the middle of Ohio that had always voted this way and were warmongers to the core. They were starting to get a little bit of, maybe they're onto something, these dirty hippies, But one person, the CIA discovered one person, one bad apple at a rally of 10,000 that was otherwise amazingly peaceful with that many people. They could fuck up the whole thing, and then they'd spin it so that it would have a negative impact on the viewing public when they put it on the media. Then it's, look, this thing that was supposed to be peace, all these dirty hippies, they just blew it up because they're just dirty hippies. And the movement sadly lost momentum. And even though the war effort finally collapsed years later, it's the same thing. So just if you're a starseed and you identify that way, I'm here to tell you, I don't even have any legitimate reason necessarily. I can't show you my Starseed galactic papers. Those don't exist. So I can't prove to you that what I believe about my own presence here, the background, is true. But even if it isn't, it doesn't matter, because to identify as something that's progressive and something that's good is a good thing. Stay in that mode and don't let these fuckers tear you down.
Yeah, no, it's interesting you bring that up, because there was something that I was thinking about yesterday in regards to, there's been a lot of stories that have come across my radar on past life regressions.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of feel like that goes parallel to this idea that, maybe the existence that you have right now is not necessarily everything. Like, it doesn't tell the full picture.
I mean, and people should know that you're someone who's coming out of a background of being taught that you get, it's not James Bond. You only live twice. You only live once. And there are two static equations on the back end of that. You either go to the good place in the sky or the bad place down the escalator. And I've known a lot of people who've, for one reason or another, gone through an experience, typically with their parents. I've run into and felt like I've had an opportunity to shepherd is a strong word, I know, but maybe just hold the hand of people who were young, who were coming out of that, who were really oppressed without knowing it even, perhaps until they got older, by the upbringing of a Western theology. And I'm not bashing Western theology. Again, I have, nothing against Jesus. The Christ state is, I just feel like the teachings have been modified so that they can control people. And that just seems to be one of the absences of humanity. People yearn to control each other. But anyway, I feel like I've helped a lot of people, or a few people in my life, come through these awakenings, and it's very hard for them. And we're kind of getting into the idea of transcendence. A lot of people talk about past lives, like you're talking about, and you're talking about. It's often framed as being reincarnation, but I actually think it's transcendence, because reincarnation, pretty much from the way I understand the definition, is about incarnating into one human life after the next, after the next, after the next, to either just go through experiences for the sake of going through them because there's nothing else to do with existence because everything else has been mastered, or to learn some kind of lesson that is, again, just an exercise for the soul to be able to go through these experiences and learn. There are also forms of reincarnation that are of the belief that you can reincarnate as animals or as other living things, trees, rocks, even in some cases. Animism actually comes into it. Static objects that still are comprised of the energy that we share with them that binds everything together. You can come back as that object and experience life, for lack of, an actual beating heart in your chest somewhere, as that thing for a while until you're melted down by a volcanic eruption or whatever, and then you move on to something else. So there's all kinds of earthly definitions for reincarnative theory or reincarnative belief systems. Transcendence, the way I see it, and this could be wrong by definition, but I've always felt like this defines it, is the notion that we can have those experiences anywhere. That imagine the not only universe, but the multiverse. Imagine every single space that's possible within existence itself. And that's a lot, because we're talking about, as we kind of alluded to on the last show, anything that can even be thought of can exist.
Infinity times infinity.
Being able to go to the planet that's on the other side of the Milky Way, being able to go to the planet that's around the twin red star that's on the other side of the universe from us, being able to go to the Earth that's 3,495 down to the right and not come back as Jack, but actually exist as Chuck, the accountant with the real buck teeth and the glasses. I mean, absolutely, positively anything that you can fathom, you can be that. And you can have an experience as that. That to me is transcendence, and that to me is as vast as it is. You can be anything that you want. How that works, I couldn't tell you. I don't profess to know that. I don't know the mechanics of that. I don't know if it's entirely free will based. So I don't know if you just pull a slot machine handle and it's somehow seemingly random, whether God or some kind of deity chooses for you or advises you. I have no idea how that works. All I know is that's my hard belief on what we're all, I should take that back, not what we're all going through, what those of us who subscribe to the theory are going through. Because I also happen to think that whatever you believe is true. So if you are in fact a believer in a God where there is two sides to the equation when you pass in this sense, that's what will happen to you. You will get what you believe in, basically, because that's where your beliefs lie. Now, you may have a chance to change your mind if you get to an afterlife where, okay, this is what you believed through this one. So here's the heaven we talked about. Here's the hell. Step in one and you're there forever. And you go, I kind of want to rethink this now because I'd like to go on and do something else. And they go, sure. I think it's flexible, but who knows? That's why it's fascinating.
Well, and maybe this is going to be an episode for future podcasts, but how do you think the notion of time plays into that?
Well, we talked about time a little bit, I think, on our last podcast. And as you've heard me say before, time isn't real. And there's actually a design that has been suggested by nuclear physicists, by astrophysicists actually, about the spatial dimensions of the universe, that in fact there isn't a universe, i.e. one verse, which is all things, that there are in this model mathematically somehow, and again, I'm far from being an astrophysicist, but they came up with 11, I believe. It was either 11 or 13 dimensions. I want to say it was 11. And 9 of them were actually occupiable by reality as we know it here. Very similar stuff. It could be a little different. It might be fourth dimensional stuff. It might be two-dimensional stuff even. But basically, these 9 layers that were on the front side of the onion were all, you were able to experience them in a way that would be similar enough to being Michael Elliott in this experience that you would recognize it the same, that things could be, as we would describe them, tactile. They, you could have the senses, you could smell things. Maybe there are other senses that exist in certain dimensions of these 9 that don't in the others, but basically it's kind of the same thing as being here. Then the other 2 were purely space and purely time. And the reason why is because all of the other 9 relied on both to exist at all. And so therefore, space had to have its own dimension all to itself, and time its own dimension all to itself. But in that, time then becomes real, because what is time? Time is simply the marking of the passing of entropy, basically. It's the marking of change. Anything that change, and it's not, and I shouldn't say that, it's very George Carlin of me, not just entropy, not just the breakdown, the systematic breakdown of things, but also the systematic growth and rise of things. It's all marked by the passage of what we'd call time, but time itself isn't real. It's not. We just live with things in this particular equation which are cyclical in nature.
Essentially, it is the ride that we are on around the sun. The constant revolution around the sun is being measured.
Because that is, in fact, a way for something to be given a sense of time. Because there is a you on an earth to go around a sun, all of that can be in some way tracked, if you will. All of that can be plotted. And so you can say, here's where I was when the sun was in the sky at this time of the year, because, of course, we also know it spins around so many times every 24 hours as we've given it. And it takes 365 days, as we call them, those revolutions that are the 24 hours to go. So everybody understands that. But the only reason why time in abstract is applicable to those things and no longer seemingly becomes an abstract concept is because it is denotable just by the fact that those things occur. But that doesn't make it real. And in my understanding, in my dealings of anything that's ever happened to me in an astral sense, outside of my body or outside of my physical mind, and I can't say that those have been too often maybe for or maybe even against my liking, but is that my understanding is that there is no time. It doesn't exist. All things exist at once, simultaneously, no matter where we might say they are or when, because there is no when they might happen. All things exist. And one of the reasons is because all possibilities of all things have already been equated. They've already played out. And so therefore they are already floating around in a kettle of existence. It's just a matter of where you, whatever you are, happen to be when they line up. And so I've come to the notion, the understanding that time in abstract is not real. It is in fact abstract. And it's the only way it could be applied to anything is because the time we've spent together today. Well, a few things have happened since we started talking. You know, I've gotten just a little bit of cells in my body have broken down just a little bit more because I'm aging and I'm not reproducing them fast as, fast as I was when I was in my 20s, and same thing's happening to you. The sun outside has gone down slightly, but of course it hasn't gone down. The earth is just moving in a direction that's away for it because it's finishing its cycle for the day. Those things are the marcations of time, but time itself, it's not real. And that immediately gets blown up the moment that you have any kind of an epiphany or an experience that you realize that eternity is all that there is. And the energy that you are has no beginning date and no expiration date. Remember, one of Jack Hansen's basic rules of metaphysical matter, of spiritual matter, of spiritual science, I guess you could even say. Just like the old fundamental law of matter, it can't be created or destroyed. It can only change. Same thing as it is with what we call spirit energy. It can't be created or destroyed. It can only be changed. And that means, therefore, it's always been here and it always will be. So always is the only constant in the equation. And that's hard for us to wrap our brains around in this body, in this way, because we're taught to be so linear, and we're also immersed in this experience, and we're supposed to be to a degree. So we've got things to do that depend on us relying on those.
I think that's the big factor. I think that's the biggest factor, is that there's a construct, and that is our body. That is where it really hits for us. And that's why time has become such a construct, is because we are, whether we realize it or not, trapped in this being of life. It's only going to last for so many years. We don't know when that's going to happen. And I think that's part of that evolution and that change that is happening inside of some people, or that transcendence, like you said.
Yeah, and I mean, I hate to say this, but I do have to just mention that I don't think we're trapped either. I think there are days when we feel trapped, but I think your practicing of meditation right now, for example, or whatever my practices are that might be a little bit different, because meditation traditionally is hard for me, but it doesn't mean that I can't get, as they say, outside of myself. Those are exercises in a remembrance that you aren't stuck, you aren't trapped here, but in fact, you've agreed to do this. These are terms that you wanted. You signed up for this. And this came up the other night again, in mixed company. And of course, people were going back and forth about the notion that you make a contract in some way to come here and go through this experience. And people say, well, if I did, I certainly wouldn't have, had the gingivitis that I got. I didn't ask for. If I did, I wouldn't have asked for this, cleft palate that I was born with, or I wouldn't have asked to be a man, or I wouldn't have asked to be a woman, or I would have asked to be so ugly, or, whatever it is. And it's just like, just silence yourself and accept the possibility that you signed up for all of it. The club foot, the cleft palate, the ugliness, the inability to remember your wife's anniversary, all these things that you just crow about constantly. I can't do, I'm not this, I don't measure up. Just silence that. And just for a moment, put yourself into a position where you agree with the idea that you have signed up for every single thing that you are, physically and otherwise, within this experience. And if you do that, even though you think you won't be happy, you will, because it will set you free. And the reason why it will set you free is because you will have achieved total control over this experience. Letting go.
And that, to me,
notion,
that to me sounds like someone who is trapped. Right?
What's that? The person that complains
the person who can't get their mind around that idea. And so that's what I mean. It's like, I think that's why we've created this construct of time. And that's why it's so ingrained.
And if you want to go hardcore, jump in front of the train and see how stuck you are.
Right.
I mean, there's that. I mean, that has to be brought up too. It's just like, I know there's supposed to be some consequences for that, even in a theological way that, there's, okay, well, you've ended the contract prematurely. Now there are things you have to answer to. Psychics who I've talked to about this subject even, and the afterlife and, where we go and all that and reincarnation will even tell me, suicides are difficult because, I have people in my life who I've known who've committed suicide, and I've talked with them about what that means for them. And it's not the purgatory sentence that religion has assigned to them. Or, again, if they felt that was their belief system, maybe it is for all we know. But as far as, like I said, the soothsayers and the seers and the people that seem to have one foot in this world and one foot in the other, the Pisceans of the world, they've all told me that does complicate things, but it's obviously not a literal death sentence for the soul or anything like that. It's just you've torn up your contract halfway through or a quarter of the way through, whenever it was, you've gone back on your agreement. And so now your contract has to be redrafted. You have to redo the terms of it. And I think I've always been fascinated by, and these are lengthy subjects, so we should probably save them for another podcast, but karma really weaves in there too, because karma is the notion of the everlasting butterfly effect, if you will. Everything that we've ever done as anything in any form, in any what we would call place, in any of this construct that we would call existence, which is, again, not just the universe, but all universes or multiverses that may exist. Anything we've ever done, thought, said, has a ripple effect potentially. And we answer to that in one way, shape, or form with karma. And some of our karma is heavier than others, but I also think that's a big part of this too. But it's we can't explore so many big subjects at the tail end of one podcast where we've largely spent talking about what it would be like to have a remote control jammed into our body and, change the channel at will. So.
Toonses the cat can drive a car?
Where'd they come up with that friggin' name? Toonses. That's what I always wanted to know about that segment. Was who came up with Toonses? Like,
it's a good question.
I don't even know what a Toonses is.
It's funny, we were talking about Toonses the cat.
Yeah.
In the comments section on that video on YouTube, it says, I named my Tesla Toonses. It can't drive itself very well either.
I think you should have bought a Toonses instead of a Teslas.
What a strange, strange world we live in. And what an existence we love to point out here on Existence Brewing. What are we listening to?
It's our old buddy Ray Stevens and his eponymous track from the soundtrack of the Stephen King movie Cat's Eye.
Wasn't Drew Barrymore in that movie?
She was. She had her breath sucked out by a little goblin that lived in the wall.
That's right.
Which some of us are still hoping would happen to her to this day for real, but the guy can dream.
Until we meet again at Existence Brewing.
All right, you watch that chip in your head.
Well, it looks like Jack and Michael have finished up their latest chat about all things existence. But if anything they said got your own Existence Brewing, be sure and catch their other talks at existencebrewing.com and drop them an email to share your thoughts using contact@existencebrewing.com.
Existence Brewing.